Commanders fans. So we do have somewhat positive news about Jayden Daniels' left arm. Like I said last night, the positive news is that it was not his throwing arm. And also Dr. Chow, the Twitter doctor, who he is a real doctor. He was with the Chargers. So he did spend some time with NFL teams. So his word does hold weight when he does tweet out things. So David J. Chow on Twitter, he said, excuse me, Jayden Daniels' elbow dislocation injury was grotesque, but because it is not his throwing elbow, there will not be a Tommy John UCL surgery. This injury is not career-threatening, and depending on the associated injuries, there's a slim chance it may not be season-ending. So Ian Rappaport followed the same thing. Dr. Chow, David Chow, said this 8 hours ago. Now, Ian Rappaport just tweeted this out about 15 minutes ago. He says, once again, reading again, quarterback Jayden Daniels, who left Sunday's loss with his left arm immobilized, suffered a dislocated elbow, and will have an MRI to determine how long he's out, sources say. The belief is it's not as bad, which is good news, guys. It's not as bad as it could have been, but Daniels will miss several games. So if we were in the playoff hunt, like we were last year when we made the playoffs, made the NFC Championship game, and Mariota had to come in and, kind of keep us afloat. Let's say we were like 6-3. And, this injury happened to Jayden Daniels. Mariota comes in and plays there's 8 games left. Let's say he plays like 6 games, and then Jayden Daniels would come back with 2 games left and try to compete in the playoffs, hypothetically speaking that way. But since the season is over, in my opinion, we're 3-6. We're playing the Lions, who just lost to the Vikings. It's gonna be BTA. It's gonna be BTA. It's gonna be really, really bad. I thought it was gonna be bad with Jayden anyway. If Jayden was healthy next week anyway, or this week actually, this Sunday was gonna be bad regardless. But it's going to be bad. So even if Jayden is available, let's say 6 weeks or 7 weeks or whatever, let's say 6 games go by, he's eligible to come back for like 2 games left in the season, I still would not bring him back. I would still rest him for the rest of the season. There's no point of him playing with Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey. Well, Luke McCaffrey, he's probably going to be on IR as well. But there's no point of having Luke McCaffrey as a wide receiver. I'm sorry. There's no point of having who led us in receptions last night? Let me look that up too. I know it was probably Zach Ertz, but to have Zach Ertz as your basically wide receiver 1 or your option 1, your tight end 1, option 1, and then after that is Chris Moore. Debo had 5 catches for 41 yards, but I predict that we trade Debo. I would trade him. I would fire sell, and it's not even tanking. Like, you're going to lose the majority of your games left this year. The only winnable game on the schedule really is the Dolphins that I see. And even that one is iffy unless they bench Tua, which is a possibility that they just want to move on from him. I don't think they will by that time, but it's possible. And then the Giants are just, I don't think we'll be the Giants as Jackson Dart is actually like decent, but they still are a bad team. And their defense, yes, their pass rush is good, but they give up a lot of rushing yards. So those are the 2 games on the schedule that I can see. And then maybe if the Eagles rest their starters on the last game. So there's 3 games that you look at that they could possibly win. And Mariota's not bad, but even Mariota, like putting him out there with this situation, I feel bad for him, man. I do. I feel bad for him, man. Jalen Lane is your wide receiver 1. Like I said, trade Debo and John Bates and Zach Ertz are your tight end 1 and tight end 2. Ben Sinnott, I think he got rolled up on. I think he got injured too, so I'm not sure if he's going to play. Traylon Burks is your wide receiver number 2. He might be your wide receiver 1. So it's rough, man. Chris Rodriguez, no disrespect to him. He's playing. He played pretty well yesterday. So I'm not gonna say he's the better running back between him and JCM, but you can't really run the ball because they're stacking the box because they know we don't get separation. We just don't get any separation. You have to scheme guys open a lot because we just don't have a lot of guys that are just gonna beat their man like Terry McLaurin would, or like Debo would a couple of years ago, or like he was in the first couple of games. Or Noah Brown calls in a pass interference who you just can't rely on anyway. So yeah, like I said, positive news for Jayden Daniels. Let's get to Dan Quinn, man. A lot of people are talking about fire Dan Quinn. I'm like, come on, y'all. Let's relax on that. Let's get to today's sponsor, Sleeper, and then we'll get back into the video. What's good, Commanders fans? Shout out to today's sponsor, Sleeper. Give you guys a great deal with using promo code Oliver. First-time users, you get 100% deposit match up to $100. Using promo code Oliver, just click on the link down below in the description box to start using the #1 daily fantasy sports app, Sleeper. Also, there's a great deal for a $20 free entry for first-time users on Sleeper. Once again, clicking on the description box. So Sleeper, you make picks on more or less receiving yards, rushing yards, passing yards, Anytime touchdown scores, any stat prop that you can think of, it is on Sleeper. So the pick that I have for today's game against the Seahawks, tonight's game, is Sam Darnold more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Also pairing that with Jordan Love's free entry or free square of over a half a passing yards for Jordan Love. So they're giving a great deal with the Jordan Love deal as well. We have allowed more than 1.5 passing touchdowns for opposing quarterbacks in 5 out of the 8 games that we played this year. So lock in Sam Darnold more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Make sure you guys check it out. Click the link down below in the description. Terms and conditions apply. Let's get back to the video. All right, so like I said on Sleeper, the 1.5 passing touchdowns more on that Sam Darnold hit very easily. He had 4 passing touchdowns in the first half. 4 in the first half. 3, I believe, in the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken. I know he had 2 in the first, so that I know he smacked that in the first quarter. Torrey Horton, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, which is just crazy. And it's so funny because I said a positive advantage that Cooper Kupp was out, and it was probably a positive advantage for the Seahawks having Torrey Horton play because he's younger and probably faster than Cooper Kupp and can move better and all that. Same thing last week with the Cowboys. I was like, positive advantage to Trayvon Diggs being out. And they're probably happy that Trayvon Diggs is sitting out because he's been so bad. So let's talk about Dan Quinn here. A lot of people are talking about fire him because he had Jayden Daniels out there when we were down 38-7, which I do think that was a poor decision by Dan Quinn. Yes, I do agree with that. I do agree that that was a not a good decision at all. But hold on, here's another doctor saying out there with another update. But I think Jayden, like I said, if we were trying to make the playoffs, I think he probably could play in a couple weeks. That's the positive thing. It was such a gruesome, nasty injury. But Dan Quinn, I just don't like some of the answers that he had in his presser. That's one thing I will say. I get the old school mentality that you're trying to fight to the end, fight to the finish, and get him out there and keep him out there. We were in the red zone, so you want to score a touchdown. We just didn't have a lot of rhythm the whole game. We haven't had a lot of offensive rhythm really the whole year because he's just been in and out of the lineup. So I get that. He didn't play all preseason. Didn't have Terry. Didn't have this guy. Didn't have that guy. So it's just been a terrible, terrible training camp. Terrible, just like I hate to say it, but Nikki Javala was right about the vibes and energy and all that, man. It just was not good with Terry, Buddy Baker, Adam Peters. It just wasn't good. But getting back to Dan Quinn, yes, he should have pulled Jayden Daniels. And the hindsight is 2020. Of course, you look at it that way. A lot of people are saying like I stopped paying attention to the game at that point. To be honest with you, a lot of people said that Sam Darnold was out, Drew Lock was in. Some of the defensive players were sat for the Seahawks, that they moved on to the next game, that they were sitting their guys to prevent injury as well. If that really was the case, then yes, that is malpractice by Dan Quinn. It is. It's malpractice because he's your franchise guy. You shouldn't force him to be out, especially if they sit down Sam Darnold, have Drew Lock out there. It's inexcusable. And then Dan Quinn in his presser, he says, quote, "It was a design read or a play into that spot. If we run it 50 times, it's either a handoff or a throw 50 times." So it does kind of sound like a little bit that he is blaming Jayden. Like, we know Jayden scrambles all the time. Like, a lot of his rushing touchdowns are scrambles instead of being design runs. Like, a lot of his plays, like even Cliff last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he was like, that was the worst play call I've ever played, but Jayden saved me on that play. And he scored a touchdown on the Buccaneers again, the first game of the year last year. So to say that, it was kind of not the best answer, to be honest with you, from Dan Quinn. Kind of just didn't show a lot of accountability there. But, I if I were him, yeah, I would have been like, hey, we just fight to the finish and we want to play through the whistle kind of thing. I'd rather him say that than saying that, 50 times out of 50 times, Jayden would have handed it off or thrown the ball. Like, when you have a scrambling dual threat quarterback, when and he really is 30 out of 50 times that Jayden will improvise and move around, especially with the offensive line. He got pressured like a historical rate last night. It was bad. It was really bad. He got pressured on a career high of 51% of his dropbacks, including 61% in the second half. Every time he dropped back, he was pressured. And this is with Laramie Tunsil, Biotis, Sam Cosmi, Chris Paul, who's been playing well, and then Josh Conley, who's been up and down all year. So it's like we have a good offensive line, but they got dominated last night, especially when you're in long down situations. So, and then last week against the Chiefs, we were down 28-7. He decides to punt the football. So there's just a lot of inconsistencies there. He waved the white flag last week. A lot of people were mad at him for that. And then he fights to the finish this week. And of course, people are upset because our franchise guy had suffered a gruesome, nasty injury. So I am intrigued to see if Jayden Daniels' mom had a conversation with Dan Quinn after the game. I know how RG3's parents were. So I am intrigued to see if they had a conversation or anything like that. Adam Peters as well. But I would not fire Dan Quinn. That's very overreactive, guys. We just went to the NFC Championship game last year. And a big reason of that, of course, is Jayden Daniels. But a big reason of that was Dan Quinn going for it on fourth down, being aggressive, being assertive. Like, a lot of that was Dan Quinn's doing, just trusting in your quarterback, too, and letting Jayden rock and motivating guys, getting the best out of guys last year, which I thought he did. But no, I would not fire a guy after getting us to the NFC Championship. Yes, it was malpractice with your quarterback, and then the Eagles, of course, they just traded for Jalen Phillips, third-round pick. They just gave up a third-round pick for Jalen Phillips. Bradley Chubb's still available. We're not trading anything, any picks for anybody, guys, and that's a fact. We know that now. We need a third-round pick. No, we need a second-round pick. If any, we're not going to get that though. But all right, you guys, as always, you let me know what you guys think. Later today, I kind of want to recap Adam Peters' moves over the past 2 years and kind of grade him a little bit. It is halfway through the season. We're 3-6, so it's 9 games. This is the halfway mark, maybe some grades or something like that. I may make a video like that later today. They probably will give some injury updates about who else got injured other than Jayden. Trying to think if anybody else got hurt. Marshawn Lattimore, they'll probably give an update about him today. And then if we get any more trade news or rumors or anything like that, I definitely will talk about that because we're not going to be buyers. So it is what it is on that. We know that for a fact now. All right, guys. Hello, Commanders. Peace. Oh, also, Zach Ertz with the false start. Like, somebody had a false start when Jayden had a nice run for a first down. That was terrible. And then Zach Ertz had another false start where he messed up a play where he had potential as well. It's just bad all around, guys. All right, guys. Hello, Commanders. Peace. And then they did a tush push with the tight end. It's ridiculous. Hello, Commanders. Peace. Once again, do not invite 50 Cent back ever again. Peace.